I pulled into my driveway, eyes fixed on the barn. The lock was still hanging open and the faint glow of the moonlight reflected off the uneven scuff marks along the doorframe, like someone had been here recently checking things out. I stepped out, heart pounding, and crept toward the barn. Inside, everything was exactly how I'd left it. Tools undisturbed, hay bales stacked neatly, no signs of intrusion. But I knew better than to trust appearances anymore. I slipped my phone out and activated the trail cameras I'd set earlier. The footage I'd captured was clear enough. A shadowy figure, tall, moving carefully along the gravel drive, then slipping inside the barn with a purpose. Whoever it was, they knew exactly where to go, what to look for. I watched the grainy video again, feeling the cold sweat bead on my forehead. This wasn't random. Someone had been inside, digging through my stuff. I examined the barn's interior, my eyes narrowing on the workbench. A few tools were out of place, faint smudges on the surface like someone had been pawing at them in the dark. I reached out, fingertips brushing over the surface, and felt a faint gritty residue. Something was definitely wrong. Suddenly, I heard a faint rustling outside. I froze. The night was dead silent, except for that tiny sound, like someone trying to be quiet. I crept toward the door, eyes scanning the shadows. A figure appeared just briefly near the edge of the woods, moving swiftly but cautiously. It was too dark to see clearly, but I caught the outline of a hoodie, a quick glance at the shadowed face. My mind raced. Whoever they were, they'd come. Back, maybe to finish what they started, or maybe to cover their tracks. I knew I couldn't wait around. I reached into my pocket, fingers closing around the small flashlight I kept for emergencies. Flipping it on, I aimed the beam toward the woods, but the figure was gone, vanished like a ghost. I took a deep breath. This was deeper than I thought. Someone wanted me out of the way, or maybe they simply wanted what I had: proof, access, control. The HOA's games were only part of it. This was something bigger. I pulled out the USB drive I'd hidden beneath a loose floorboard. It contained all the footage I'd collected. The stage damage, the late-night trespassers, the fake boundary maps. I knew I had to get this evidence out, fast. But now I also had to figure out who was behind all this, who was willing to risk so much, sneaking onto my property in the dead of night. Just as I was about to slip back inside, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I hesitated, then pulled it out. The screen flashed with a message I wasn't expecting. "You're getting too close. Stop digging, or next time it won't be just a shadow in the woods." No name, no number, just that chilling warning. My stomach clenched. Someone was watching me, and they knew I'd uncovered too much. I looked around again, every sense sharp. Whoever it was, they weren't finished. I had to act fast. I grabbed my flashlight and headed toward the shed to get the old walkie-talkie I kept for emergencies. The night was thick and silent, every shadow feeling heavier than the last. I knew the next move could be dangerous, but I couldn't back down now. Whoever was lurking out there wasn't done, and if I didn't stop them, they'd keep coming back, maybe even escalate. Inside the shed, I checked the radio, flipping it on. Static crackled, then a faint voice. I froze. It wasn't mine. A whisper, just loud enough to hear. "You've seen too much. Leave now, or you'll regret it." The words sent a shiver down my spine. Someone was inside my own head trying to scare me off. But I wasn't about to give up. Not without a fight. I grabbed my keys, pocketed the USB, and headed back toward the house, every step heavy with the knowledge that I was no longer just fighting HOA nonsense. I was tangled in something far darker. Someone out there was willing to do anything to keep me quiet. And I'd be damned if I let them. I reached the porch and paused, listening. Nothing. Just the wind whispering through the trees. I stepped inside, locking the door behind me, but I knew this was only the beginning. Whoever was out there, they'd come again. And next time I'd be ready. Not just with evidence, but with whatever it took to end this game once and for all. The moment I grabbed the USB from the floorboard, I knew I was running out of time. The faint glow of the porch light cast long shadows, but I didn't look back. Someone was watching, somewhere out there, lurking in the darkness, waiting for me to slip up. I sprinted toward the house, heart pounding like a drum, every step echoing in my chest. My fingers fumbled with the lock as adrenaline surged through me. I shoved the door open and slammed it shut behind me, locking it tight. But I knew better than to think I was safe. Whoever had been snooping around wasn't finished. They'd already shown they could break in, hack my cameras, and leave warnings in the shadows. I pressed my back against the door, trying to catch my breath, and stared at the USB. I had proof now. Clear, undeniable proof of the tampering, the staged damage, the illegal moves the HOA was making behind everyone's back. Then the silence, shattered. A loud banging rattled the front door, making the walls shake. Someone was outside, pounding, demanding I come out. I clenched my fists, gripping the USB tighter. This wasn't just about land or petty HOA rules anymore. It was about survival. Whoever was out there had crossed a line. They weren't just digging around my barn. They wanted to scare me, intimidate me into silence. I reached for my phone, but before I could dial, a new message flashed across the screen. You're not safe. Keep quiet, or next time, it's not just shadows you'll have to face. No number, no sender. Only that cold warning. I knew I had to act fast. I slipped the flash drive into my pocket and moved toward the back of the house. I needed to get to the safe spot I'd set up, an old closet hidden behind a false wall in the basement, where I kept everything I might need if things got worse. I moved through the dark house, every creak and whisper making my nerves tighten. Someone was definitely out there, probably watching me through the windows, waiting for the right moment. When I finally reached the basement door, I paused, listening. Nothing but the faint hum of the old fridge upstairs. I pushed the door open, carefully flicked on my flashlight and slipped inside. The small room was cluttered with tools, old batteries, and a few emergency supplies. I clicked on the tiny camera I'd hidden there. The live feed showed only shadows, nothing out of the ordinary, but I knew better than to trust appearances now. Suddenly my phone buzzed again. This time a voice crackled through the tiny walkie-talkie. I'd set up, "Look outside." I stiffened. I looked through the basement window, heart racing. Two figures stood just beyond the porch light, one tall, hooded, the other shorter, hunched, with a flashlight in hand. They were studying the house, moving slowly, deliberately. I pressed myself flat against the wall, gripping the device tighter. Whoever they were, they knew I was onto something. They'd come prepared. I had to think quickly. I remembered the old alarm system I'd installed ages ago. Cheap, but effective if triggered. I reached over and pressed the button to activate. A shrill siren piercing the night. The figures froze. Then both vanished into the darkness like ghosts retreating into the shadows. I waited, breath hitching, heart pounding in my ears. Minutes felt like hours. When the silence returned, I knew they hadn't gone far. I had to get out, find help, or at least get to a place where I could think clearly. I grabbed the USB, slipped it into my pocket, and quietly moved toward the back exit. I had a plan. Call the sheriff, show him the footage, and finally put an end to this nightmare. But first, I had to get out of the house without being caught. I crept through the kitchen. I heard a faint creak upstairs. Someone was inside, moving stealthily. My mind raced. I had to be quick. I slipped out the side door, staying low, and ran to the shed where I kept the old truck. Its engine coughed to life after a few tense moments, and I sped off into the night, leaving the house behind, but not the danger. They knew I'd seen everything now. They'd tried to scare me off with shadows, threats, and stealth. But I wasn't backing down. I had the proof, and I was going to use it. This wasn't just about land anymore. It was about exposing a conspiracy that ran far deeper than I'd ever imagined. Whoever was behind all this, HOA thugs, corrupt officials, or someone even darker, had just made a deadly mistake. Because I wasn't going to let them silence me. I kept driving, the wind whipping past the windows, knowing they'd be watching. They'd come back, I was sure of that. But next time, I'd be ready. I had the evidence, the hiding spots, And now I had the resolve to fight. Because this wasn't just about defending my land, it was about standing up to those who thought they could control everything, and winning. The moment I saw the first flash of headlights piercing through the dark, I knew they'd come back. I was already on my feet, heart hammering in my chest, clutching the USB like a lifeline. I dashed out into the night, my boots pounding the gravel, every shadow feeling like an enemy lurking just beyond my sight. The old truck roared to life beneath my hands, and I sped away, leaving the house behind, but not the danger. They'd been here, inside my barn, in my house, watching me every step of the way. My mind raced as I drove through the winding country roads, trying to piece together what I'd uncovered. The fake boundary maps, the staged damage, the sabotage of county equipment, proof of a conspiracy far bigger than I'd ever imagined. Someone had been manipulating everything, trying to take my land, my life, my peace. And now they'd resorted to breaking in, spying, and threatening to silence me forever. Suddenly, my phone lit up with a new message. I hesitated, heart pounding, then pulled over to check. It was a simple text. "You're too close. Stop now, or next time there will be no coming back." No name, no number, just those chilling words. I looked around the empty street, eyes darting through the shadows. Whoever was behind this knew I'd seen too much. They were desperate, dangerous, and willing to do anything to keep their secrets buried. I kept driving, pushing deeper into the night, until I reached the small town's outskirts. I knew I couldn't stay out in the open forever. I had to find a safe place, somewhere I could hide, figure out my next move. I remembered the old abandoned warehouse near the river, a place I'd used before for emergencies. I pulled into the lot and shut off the engine, sitting in silence for a moment, listening to the distant sounds of the night. That's when I saw them again. Two figures moving cautiously in the shadows. I stayed hidden, watching as they approached. My trunk, searching for something. I recognized the taller one, hooded, shadowed but unmistakably Keith, the HOA president. The shorter one, moving with purpose, was Beverly. They were rummaging through my belongings, pulling out supplies, looking for something they'd missed. Their faces were grim, determined. I knew I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I pulled out the USB, the evidence that could bring everything crashing down. I had to get it to someone who could help, law enforcement, a journalist, anyone. But first I needed to stop them from finding it. I reached into my glove compartment, grabbing a small, concealed device I'd hidden for moments, like this, a remote alarm that would trigger a loud, blaring siren anywhere nearby. I pressed the button. The alarm erupted with deafening volume, shattering the silence, and both figures froze. Keith cursed under his breath. Beverly's eyes widened with shock. They looked around wildly, realizing they'd been caught in the act. I knew that moment was my chance. I slipped out of the truck, heart pounding, and ran toward the riverbank, clutching the USB tight. But they weren't done. Beverly shouted something unintelligible, and Keith yelled back. Then I saw Beverly pull out a small device, some kind of jammer, and aimed it at me. The world suddenly went black for a second. My phone, the remote alarm, all cut off. They'd known I'd try to record more, to fight back. I stumbled, struggling to stay upright, realizing they'd come prepared for everything. I dove into the thick brush by the river, heart racing, lungs burning. I knew I was risking everything, but I had no choice. I had to get that USB somewhere, safe, somewhere they couldn't reach. I scrambled through the undergrowth, hearing their footsteps crashing through the woods behind me, gaining ground. I pushed myself harder, knowing that if they caught me, I'd be finished. Suddenly, I tripped over a root and hit the ground hard. Pain shot up my leg, but I didn't stop. I looked behind, saw a flash of Beverly's flashlight, then Keith's. They were close. Too close. I pulled out the USB, clutching it like a talisman, and scrambled toward the only place I knew I could trust, the old abandoned mill on the edge of town. I burst through the rotting doors, slamming them shut behind me. Inside, darkness swallowed everything. I pressed my back against the wall, heart hammering so loud I thought it might burst. I reached into my pocket, ready to send the USB to a journalist I'd contacted, someone I trusted, someone who could blow this all wide open. But then I saw it. The shadows in the corner shifted. Standing there, just barely visible, was a figure I hadn't expected, someone I'd never thought I'd see. It was a man, cloaked in darkness, but his face was unmistakable. It was the old sheriff, the one who'd retired years ago, the one everyone thought was long gone. He stepped forward slowly, voice low but clear. "You've been digging into something you shouldn't, Kellen," he said, voice steady. "And now they know you're onto them. I can't protect you anymore, but I can tell you this. Everything you've uncovered, it's just the tip of a much bigger iceberg, and they're willing to kill to keep it buried." I stared, stunned. My mind spun. How had he appeared now? Why was he here? I clutched the USB tighter, knowing that this was no longer just about land or HOA disputes. It was about something far more sinister: secret dealings, corruption, people who would kill to keep their secrets hidden. He looked me in the eye, his voice dropping to a whisper. "If you want to survive this, you have to decide right now: run or fight. But remember, nothing is what it seems, and everyone you trust could be a lie. Your land, your life, your future, everything depends on what you do next." The darkness closed in around us, thick and suffocating. I hesitated for a heartbeat, then made my choice. I pulled out the old, battered revolver I kept hidden in my coat pocket and aimed it at the shadows. "If they want a war," I said, my voice fierce and unyielding, "they're going to get one." And just as I squeezed the trigger, the world exploded into chaos. Shots rang out. The mill shook. The shadows retreated into the darkness, and I knew I'd just stepped into a battle that would change everything forever. The truth was out, and the lies that had built this false world were crumbling beneath the weight of what I'd uncovered. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just fighting for my land anymore. I was fighting for my life, for the truth, for every person who'd been silenced and betrayed, and I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever.